Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Perry Gladstone and Ravi Rajcoomar, founder of the Moonshot Collective. Welcome, gentlemen, to the program.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, so
I'm
looking forward to connecting with you because I always love names of companies or what the story is behind it. So I definitely want to hear what is the Moonshot Collective and how did you come up with that? But give us a little bit of your background, each together, individually and together, and then what led you to form the Moonshot Collective, and then we'll jump right into kind of how you work with entrepreneurs.
Sounds great. Maybe I'll just take the lead here. So Ravi and I kind of have our secret titles, but both of us have been working at a high level across multiple industries for many years as serial entrepreneurs and guides and advisors. My particular practice is working with entrepreneurs to help them understand what their greatest opportunities for success are. What I found over my own career as a serial entrepreneur is that the more successful I got and the more successful the people I knew got, the more isolated they become. And it's just harder and harder to find a trusted place for thinking out loud about what, the decisions you need to make, whether, it's the rest of your career or a major decision for your company. And so the Moonshot Collective for me began as a mastermind group that I created for myself so that I would have the opportunity to have peer mentorship of people at my level or preferably even higher, so that I could have that confidential place to get the kind of feedback and that I needed. So that's the beginning of how this started. I got a little ahead of myself, but Moonshot refers to, of course, what we think of as our legacy. What is the thing that's bigger than us that we're going to leave behind that's more important than just the work of the day or the money that you're going to make, but what kind of impact are you going to have on the world? And that's what the Moonshot's about, and that's what the Moonshot Collective is about. It's a global movement of innovators and high achievers who are working together to think bigger than themselves and think about what is it they can do to leave their mark on the world and how can we support each other in that work.
I love it. Ravi, do you have anything to add to that intro? Because that was pretty comprehensive.
That's pretty comprehensive. Yeah, right, Mike.
Yeah, you could just say what he said.
So more of what my colleague said, but my background and my point of view on adding to what Perry said is really around, so I come from a long experiential marketing background, event marketing, athletes, that type of stuff. I was with Red Bull for a number of years, and I'm lucky that I had the opportunity to work at a lot of the world's best events, from the World Championships, the Olympics, the X Games, all that kind of stuff. So I come into that from into the Moonshot Collective from that point of view. And my expertise is really in the area of, we like to call it hero making, but a way of creating programs, campaigns, ideas, concepts that really put that customer or the person front and center. So that's kind of what I get out of it, Mike. Like, that's what works for me. And as Perry said, we created this as a safe place for leaders to be able to network, grow, and just do really good work.
And I would just add
I
to
love
that
the concept of masterminds and accountabilities and all of that. Do you guys find that your groups are niche or industry specific, or does that even matter?
No. In fact, we curate. I mean, we literally handpick our groups, and we curate them to make sure that they're cross industry, because at the end of the day, it's the sum total of our experience that makes peer mentorship, truly valuable. In fact, invaluable. And so it's being able to borrow ideas from other places and reapply them or repurpose them. So we're really very careful to not do that industry specific. And also the other thing I think is really important to mention is that we don't really differentiate between personal development and professional development. There's all sorts of mastermind groups for industry and all sorts of networking groups to find other people's resources. But what we do is so much more intimate and so much more deep, because we really do dive into what is your true purpose as an individual and how does that affect the work you do. And I honestly believe that you can't separate those things. And anyone that starts from the premise where they're separate is missing their greatest opportunity right out of the gate. They're just never going to see it.
Yeah, because doesn't it remind, or what you said reminds me of like the Jim Rohn teaching, which I'm sure he didn't even originate it, but you should spend more time on yourself personally, developing your personal development than you do anything else, because then so many other things fall into place. So, we're just one person. How I am personally should be how I am professionally. And if it's not, then maybe that's part of what we need to talk about in our next event, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes, right? It's like that mechanistic viewpoint of the world. I mean, sure, if your arm's broken, it's a mechanical thing and you got to fix it. But the body's a holistic entity, and so are we.
So,
yeah, Mike, I think one thing I'd like to add on that is I like to look at it as a place or the arena that we get to do this kind of thing, right? Using my sports analogy again. But, say we're the super friends, and this is our hall of justice. This is where we get together, lock the door, have those conversations. Aquaman and Batman and Superman, can all kind of debate these things that need to happen, how they can get to better, how they can do things better and solve these problems for the world. That's kind of the fun way I look at it sometimes.
Yeah, solve them for each other.
Well, and also to kind of use another analogy, it reminds me of the Napoleon Hill mastermind, because this, if I'm correct here, this is not a networking group to exchange leads, right? Of course not. This is, let's get together and kind of, clear the deck, clear the table. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, what business you're in. What do you need? Personally, professionally, it doesn't matter. What do you need? How can we help? And sometimes it's even better to have someone from another industry go, you know what, that reminds me of in my industry, here's what we did. And now everyone's collectively helping each other out with no agenda, no striving to get something in return or exchanging leads. It's just a mastermind.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we are floating all boats equally.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I know you guys talk about a moment of glory. So let's talk about that. What is a moment of glory? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'll kind of tee it up. So I'm going to use another popular culture metaphor here because for me, it really sets the tone. I like to use this example of Al Bundy's 4 touchdowns at Polk High. What do you want to be known for in this world? What's on your highlight reel? What's the most important thing for you? What is that moment? And that's what I like to call that moment of glory. What's that thing that you want to be remembered for, that's influential to you, that makes a difference today and into the future?
So let me just add to that. MOG, we refer to this as the moment of glory, as the MOG. Not only are we after how can we help each other, what's your biggest challenge today? What do you need access to? But the next step is, what is that highlight reel achievement, as Ravi's talking about? What is that MOG, and how can we support you in making that happen? I mean, Ravi didn't wax on about his credentials, but if it can be done in the world, Ravi's the guy behind the scenes to make it happen. And if it isn't him, he knows the person who is. So whatever trophy you want handed to you, we're in a position to be able to help make that happen. So that's what moment of glory is. And then the next step after that, not to try to push the agenda elsewhere, but is, what is your moonshot? Because that moment of glory is the achievement, is that trophy. But then what are you going to do beyond that? What are you going to do that you're going to leave your mark on the world and really have an impact that goes bigger and better? So for a lot of people, some of them need to achieve that moment of glory. They still need to make that happen before they think about their legacy. Other people have already been in that position and they've won that award or climbed that mountain and are ready to talk legacy right out of the gate. And some people are earlier in their careers, but have already shown a great amount of potential capacity and success. So we sort of cover all parts and places.
So here's something that pops into my mind when I hear moment of glory. And maybe this is part of what you guys teach, but I would venture to say that there's someone that comes into one of your groups and you're talking about a moment of glory, and they kind of are hanging their hat on that a little bit too much, and they're relying on that as their claim to fame or whatever, and they haven't done much since. So how do you teach your people, your groups, to recognize a moment of glory in the past and then to build on it, and so that the next metric or touch point or point in the timeline becomes a bigger moment of glory, but based on that initial one? You never want to rest on your laurels, in other words.
Totally. I'm so glad you put it that way, because that does happen. That happens so often. So it's just like you described, right? We help people recognize the fact that, great, you've made that happen. Ravi's the hero maker. I'm the big shot whisperer. What we do is we dive in to our greatest abilities as individuals, as individuals and as a group, to help dig in and uncover what is that bigger purpose? What is that true mission? What is the work you're really here in the world to do? And from that deep dive comes a much clearer idea, what we call your North Star, so that you have a chance to understand how you can continually orient yourself towards your best work in the world. And we have a very specific process that we take everybody through, to understand what that vision is, and then just as importantly, to be able to understand exactly how you do that, how you do your best work in the world, regardless of the context or where you are and what's happening. And so once we've done that work together, then we're really in a position to start to uncover and talk about what is that legacy piece, what is that thing that goes beyond that you're referring to.
Yeah, Ravi, and Mike, one thing thoughts on from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you brought it up in your comment. Moments of glory can be achieved and moved on. So the first step is to really determine something that is out there, like it's something that's a really, really big achievement. And it can be something like climbing Kilimanjaro. It can be starting a foundation. It can be building a school, right? It can be whatever that is most impactful for you. So that journey along the way is really what we do well with our folks. And then also being able to, the journey and the end goal. And the journey is the most important piece. Oftentimes the end goal can or can't be met, but it's the journey what really makes it work. And then as Perry said, that's the moment of glory. But the next step after that is really, what will you do with what you've learned on that journey? You're on the podium, as we like to say, you have the trophy, you've climbed KJ. What now does that look like? And what is that going to be in your legacy long term? How does that have more tentacles than just that achievement?
What do you find is a stumbling block when you're working with people regarding their kind of moment of glory? They assume it's one thing, but it's really another. What do you find is a commonality there?
I think
I'll jump in. I think the first one is really defining what that is. That inner selection of just really thinking, what does that want to be? If I want this to be on my highlight reel, and have this second piece of it being a legacy, is it big enough? Is it tangible enough? Is it the right thing? And then in that introspection, in that discovery, I think that's the first real step. 1, are you ready? 2, what will that be? And then 3 is, let's get started. Fair? Thoughts there?
Yeah, in terms of blocks, we are always our own worst enemies, just like, the shoemaker's shoes or kind of thing. And so usually what it takes, Mike, is that it takes outside perspectives, that you need to have an effective mirror, somebody else to help you see what you're talking about, someone else to help you hear the words you're using and reflect them back, help you reframe it, help you shape it, and then, connect the dots between what's really important. Almost all of us are amazing at doing that for other people, but it's extremely difficult to do it for ourselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old analogy of the cobbler's, children don't have the best shoes, or the plumber, his house is always messed up. Well, you can always see it for someone else, and sometimes you either don't see it or you don't handle it for yourself. So again, bringing it back full circle, that's where the power of a mastermind group would come in, right?
That's exactly it, and that's why we chose the mastermind group format. I mean, we refer to it as that, but really, truly, this is pure mentorship, in its purest form.
Yes, excellent. Well, let's wrap up with this question. If someone realizes, I might want to start defining my moment of glory, where should they start? Of course, learning more about your group, so we'll get to that in a second. But what's the first step that you teach your groups to start when addressing their moment of glory?
Hey, Perry, maybe let's walk us through the process, because Mike, for us, we've kind of got a couple different steps that get you in our journey to moment of glory. You just don't start right there. So, Perry, maybe let's walk through how we set it up with the hero's journey and the first steps.
Yeah, I mean, the methodology definitely comes from some of the great work that's been done before. I mean, you mentioned Napoleon Hill, and there's, of course, the work of Joseph Campbell, who gave us this incredible understanding of the hero's journey and what that archetypal journey looks like. I mean, we start there. We start with helping people identify what is the transition you're going through. Everybody shows up for a reason. They're disillusioned, or they want more, they realize they have more potential, they're thinking about leaving a legacy. So it starts with what is that transition that you're making now, going to that next level? What is that all about? And that first deep dive is, what is your true work in the world? What are you really here to do that goes beyond the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and the industry that you're in? And it's always there, but sometimes you need some help to uncover it. So we start with that. We identify what we call your engagement process, the very specific way that you tap into your mojo and do your best work in the world. Then we talk about, and we identify that North Star I mentioned earlier. What is that point that you can always orient towards no matter where you are? And as that starts to be developed and you are able to articulate it clearly and start to implement, make better decisions because of this stuff, then we get into the moment of glory. And we talk about, what is that thing that you have always wanted to do, or you just need to have on your highlight reel, on your resume? And how is that going to help motivate and drive the work that you're doing now and make you feel good about yourself, quite frankly? And then, of course, not least in any way, is what's the next level? What's the next step? What's your moonshot? What are you going to leave behind? So that's the process. And we're happy to engage with someone who's ready to go. And we deal exclusively with very high achievers. So there's a lot of people with some pretty big dreams and a lot of big capacity and abilities. If they're ready to go, we can start right away. But almost always, we've got to dig into some of that background work first.
Well, let's wrap up with, if someone is feeling like, there's something to these groups that I'm hearing about, and my, the Moonshot sounds pretty interesting, and my moment of glory sounds pretty appealing. What's the best way that someone could reach out and learn more and connect with you?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. The easiest way to get in touch with us is our website, themoonshotcollective.com. And in there, you've got all the information on us, and it talks about, we can also talk about where our socials are, and also the different podcasts that we have out on the marketplace. But the moonshotcollective.com is the best spot, and you'll learn about orientation, optimization, kind of the two things that we really, really believe in.
Excellent. Yeah, well, gentlemen, thank you for coming on. It's really a wonderful talking with you, learning about how you work with your clients, and I love your business model, so wish you all the best.
Thanks. Really appreciate this opportunity, Mike, and thanks for being patient with the funky connection.
Oh, you're welcome. It sounded great.
Great.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.